Hello everyone, my name is Charles Kennelly. I am the CTO for Edge UK, and I'm going to spend the next 15 minutes or so talking about our suite for ArcGIS application. I hope to cover what it is, what it does, how it can help you, and why we developed it really. So what is Suite? It's a web editor. It stands for Simple Web Editing Experience Toolkit, but really we just wanted to call it Suite. And it's a tool that allows you to take a specific editing workflow and publish it to a specific group of users. So it's not trying to be a all singing, all dancing GIS like ArcGIS Pro. It's taking a targeted workflow and giving it to a group of users. And by doing that, we can simplify the experience those users have and really focus on the task that they're carrying out. So Suite is a JavaScript application. It runs in any modern web browser, and it talks to either ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise. And we can configure it for different workflows. And I'll step you through a few of those right now. So the first app we're going to look at is a simple land parcel editor. So here's the application. I have Ordnance Survey Master Map, and then these red boundaries are some land parcels. And as you can see, it's running inside a browser. I'm just going to make it full screen like this. And let me talk you through the user interface. So we have the main map window. We have some panels over here, such as messages and layers and so on. Some tools at the top and a few other sort of pieces around. But as much as possible, we try to keep the interface as clean as we can so the user is not distracted from their core task, which is capturing, editing, managing data. So let's just go and have a look at that process. So I'm just going to click on New. I can choose what I'm going to edit. In this case, it's a very, very simple app. I only have one layer to edit, land parcels. So I'm just going to create a new land parcel out in the middle of nowhere here. And it's made this shape. And I'm going to make another one like this. And there are rules to this data. The two simple rules. One is no overlaps allowed, as you can see. And another rule is no tiny shapes. So I think less than a meter are not allowed. Let's make another shape. And you can see the overlap removed. So the application understands the rules, and whenever you do an edit, it runs those rules and makes sure they're sort of conformed with. So the idea being, if you express the rules clearly, then the data you capture is valid at all points. Obviously, it might be wrong, as in there's not a land parcel here, but it will be completely valid and therefore ready for analysis and use as soon as it has been captured. In terms of user interface, you can see that when I select something like this shape, I have buttons here which show me what I can do. If I select a shape over here, which isn't editable, it's in the master map background, then it changes. So I'm presented with options that I can actually take rather than trying to work out what to click next. And we've tried to make the language of these things quite simple. So if I want to add to a shape, I add to the shape. If I want to subtract from the shape, I subtract. If I want to split it, I basically do this and enclose it. And now I have two shapes here and here. And reshape. Reshape, I just drag things around like this. And if I try and do something that's not going to work, like a self-intersection here, you can see the way it doesn't stop me. It doesn't put a message up saying you've done this wrong. It just simply puts it back and gives me a bit of a clue as to why. And if I do something like this, it understands to slice that off because no overlaps allowed. And the green vertices, that means it has detected and built shared geometry. So if I just zoom in here, you can see that this boundary is now a boundary between the two parcels. It is a shared boundary like that. Now we've made editing as easy as we can, and it's quite easy to change things, as you can see, but we don't want to punish people if they make a mistake on this. We want to make it easy for people to explore, and if they make a mistake, simply to undo it. So this is the undo stack. Like this. And we can go all the way back to the start, and we can go all the way back through. Now if you think we're talking, this is a JavaScript application communicating with ArcGIS Online, and this is the level of performance that we can get from it. So that's basic editing and application of rules. Now, some of the other things we can do, I can go in here and imagine I want to add this as a new parcel. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select the background maps. Hold down Shift, select those three things. I can look at my selection. And once again, selections can be confusing. So we put effort into, we show you what you selected, and the mouse over lets you sort of preview these things. So I have three shapes. I'm going to copy them, and then I'm going to paste them, and I'm just pasting them in, and they become a new feature. Let's just select away, and you can see the new parcel there. Another way I could capture data is to turn snapping on. So here's snapping down here, and when I capture a feature, say new, you can see how it snaps to the lines, and you can control what it snaps to anything else in a normal sort of way. Another thing to bear in mind, or just to notice here, you see this tells me that I'm at right angles to the previous line, and we just got these hints that help us construct shapes in ways which are more controlled. And then I can say fine to that. So there's all sorts of tools in here. I'm not going to go into the full complexity, but there's lots of little tools that basically help the editing process and give a targeted experience so that the user can concentrate on the job they're doing, and the system handles topology and rules and everything else. And the idea being that if you use this approach, the data that you capture and manage is ready for use without needing QA processes afterwards for data errors. Just straight away. And we think that has a real impact with organizations. So one other thing I just wanted to highlight is when we're putting together this editing app, we need to think about the sort of things people needed to support them in the job. And one frequent requirement is capturing data in an area where the background mapping might not represent it yet, or where there's not imagery available. In that case, what we can do is we can load in plans. So I'm going to load a plan for this area, and I happen to have one ready to go. So here's the plan, and obviously that's not where new houses are going to be built. We're just imagining this playing field is going to be converted into some houses. And I am going to take this plan and basically I'm just going to do a free form distortion of it to put it into the right place. So right there, here, and finally like this. Now if you do live in this area, don't worry, this is once again made up information. So I have my plan in the right area, and then I can happily say OK with that, and effectively it becomes a layer in the map, and I can now digitize around it. So when I say new, I can snap on this, and off we go, and I've captured a property. So that gives you an overview of the types of functionality we put in here. That's it. So here we have another suite application. This one is an editor once again. It's been configured to support the editing of ward boundaries in a London borough. And there are rules against this as well, such as no overlaps, but they behave in a different way. So let me just show you how that works. I'll select this ward, and I am going to add to it. So just increase its area. Now before, in the previous version, this wouldn't have been allowed because overlaps are not allowed. And here overlaps are not allowed again, but it takes the shape away from the next one rather than not allowing that overlap to happen. So basically, I've grown Greenford Green at the expense of Northolt Manville. Now, why is that interesting and useful? Well, there are rules about voters and the number of voters in these different wards for council representation. So let's just go and look at a panel here that we've configured to show overall statistics. So we can see for each of these areas, I can make this bigger and you can see it in more detail. For each ward, these are the number of voters for the councillors. And here is the ideal number of votes that we should have given the population of this area. And then we have a table showing us what areas are outside of it. And as you can see, if I mouse over, you can see like Elthorn, for example, is represented by too many people for one representative. So we may want to use this editing application to adjust these numbers, but understand the implications of our edits. So let's go and just edit this one down here. So Elthorn, and if I look, I can see I've got it selected, and I can go and this is the editing window. I can see the votes per councillor for this ward, and is it in the ideal range. So let's reduce its size. I'm just going to take some space out of it. Hopefully somebody doing this for real would be a bit more careful. But take that space, it'll do the calculations and it will show me the effect of my edit. So I've reduced the number of voters, but still not within the ideal range. Now this view as well that we've configured allows us to see everywhere which is over the ideal range. So let's just undo that one. And I'm going to select another one here, this Cleveland, and I'm going to expand that like this. So really, we have taken a simple editing app, but put it in an environment where you can see the impact of your editing decisions as you make them. So there, I've solved the problem in this area, but created the problem here. So you can see how you can use this to do sort of quite careful analysis and editing and end up with a result you can share and show you're working out and so on. So one last demo here. We've got another instance of Suite configured for linear editing this time instead of polygon editing. And here we have a gas network, a very obviously made up gas network. Hopefully the utility customers among you might be able to see that this is just something I've sketched in. but it shows some interesting points. So let's go and create a new feature. So I could do the choose menu and I can see what options I have. We're going to put a polyethylene pipe in, and I'm going to go in. The first thing is it shows me where I can validly connect to. So these are junctions which can accept a new pipe. If I went in halfway along, I'd have to create a junction at that point and so on. So I'm just going to zoom in on this, and I'm going to say I'm going to connect to here, and I'm going to lay a pipe along to there. So that's totally fine, and it's basically calculated a construction zone. This is an area that we think could be affected by any work that we do there and we need to consider. And the other thing to notice when I create, I'm just going to extend this pipe out here. Like this, you should see top right that it's starting to calculate the material cost and the reinstatement cost of this pipe. So behind the scenes, there is a layer telling us the reinstatement category, or basically the cost of replacing the surface to the required level. It's just a layer of data managed by the local authority. And it tells me that if you're digging up part of the trunk road network, it's going to cost more to replace than if you're digging up a cycle path, for example. So I can see a cost of my work appearing here before I even finish digitizing. So I can get a real assessment of the impact of the work I might be doing and design that I'm creating. And this, I think, shows the potential for combining an editing experience with a feedback experience so that users are making much more balanced and nuanced decisions around the impact of their actions. There's a few other things to notice in here. I'm just going to cancel that and just draw one down here. And I think you probably noticed before that as I went close to a tree preservation order, it highlighted that there were issues here and I need to be aware of these TPOs. Let's just zoom out and I'll show you a few other examples of that. So let's go here. I'm just going to sketch along like this. And what you can see is this orange line. This is an abandoned gas main that's being detected and this blue area is a conservation zone. Now, obviously, this is made up data, but hopefully you can see the principle here and how powerful this approach can be.